Let's try another example of using the quadratic formula to solve an equation. We have 7k squared plus 10 equal to 8k, and we're using the quadratic formula. Remember, quadratic formula must have one side set equal to 0, so we need to move one of the terms. I'm going to move that 8k over to the left-hand side because it's only moving one term. So we're going to have 7k squared plus 10 minus 8k equal to 0. But if you already caught it, this isn't in descending order. This needs to be written as 7k squared minus 8k plus 10 equal to 0. So you can do that step right from the beginning, moving the 8k over, or move the 8k over and then rewrite it in descending order. There is no GCF, but we don't even care because quadratic formula can deal with numbers without taking out a GCF. We need to identify A, B, and C. So here A is 7, B is -8, and C is 10. Remember, our quadratic formula is x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But instead of x, this time we're going to have k, because that's the variable we're using. Remember, the variables are going to change, but everything else stays the same. So you can always start by writing the quadratic formula and then just erasing the variables, or write it again with the parentheses. Here we go. Let's plug in. We have the opposite of b, but we said b was -8. Notice that the negative that's in orange is always there. I'm plugging in b, which is negative, so I keep the negative with it. And then I have b squared, so parentheses, -8 squared, minus 4 times a, which we said was 7, times c, which is 10, all over 2 times a, which is again 7. Let's go ahead and simplify stuff. We have k is equal to, the opposite of -8 gets you a +8, plus or minus square root, I'm going to come back to that in a second, all over 14. So let's handle this square root. Okay. We're going to take the radicand, what's under the radical, in our calculator. All right. So again, type it as you see it written. It's going to be -8 quantity squared minus 4 times 7 times 10. You should be getting -216. Now, if you are not getting -216, if you are getting a -344, that's because you did not include those parentheses around that -8 when you plugged it into the calculator. You need the parentheses, otherwise your answer is going to be messed up. Okay. Back to our problem. Notice that we have a negative under the square root. And remember, whenever you have a negative under the square root, that means that you need to take out an I. And then our radical becomes positive. Now that we're here, let's find out what the square root of 216 is. So square root of 216 gets us a decimal. We needed exact answers for this problem. So when you're trying to simplify your radical and you get a decimal when you plug it in and not a nice full number, remember that means that you are going to need your factor tree. So let's go ahead and do the factor tree for 216. You can set up the factor tree however you would like. You could start by dividing by 2 and using 2 and 108. That's kind of gross. It is divisible by 4, so I'm going to do 4 and 54. 216 is broken down. We know 4 is 2 and 2. 54. You could do 2 and 27. Could do 6 with 9 if you want. And I'm crossing out everything that I am breaking down, which is why you can't really see these. I shouldn't have crossed them out that bad, but here we go. That 4 was there, as was the 54. Okay. The 2 is broken down. The 27 becomes 3 times 9. And we broke down the 27. And the 9 becomes 3 and 3. Remember, our index is 2 because it's a square root, so we're going to circle 2 of the same number. Notice that we have 2 2's I can circle. We're not going to circle that third 2 because there's not enough room. It's like trying to fit 3 people into 2 seats on a roller coaster. It's just dangerous. We're not going to do it. And we have another set that we can circle, the 3's, but again, that third 3 is going to be left out of our circle. Anything that's circled comes outside of the radical. Anything that is got an arrow to it goes inside the radical. Everything we crossed out, we ignore. So now we are at k is equal to 8 plus or minus. We took out a 2. We took out a 3. My eye's still hanging out. We have our radical, and then we had a 2 and a 3 left inside. If multiple numbers come out, we multiply them together. If multiple numbers remain in the radical, we multiply them together. And don't forget, this is still all over 14. So from here, we get k is equal to 8 plus or minus. 2 times 3 gets us 6, with the I still there. Square root of 2 times 3 is still 6, all over 14. Now remember, you can write your I at the end, but if you were to write it like this, that's not okay, because the I is under the radical. You would need to make sure that your radical stops before your I is written, because my radicals tend to go on further than I need. I put my I out front. Now you may be thinking that we are done because 6 can't be broken down any further in the radical. 8 and 6i root 6 are not like terms, so we can't combine them. But there's one thing that you did not account for, and that is math love. Yes, math love. If you can draw a heart around all of the numbers outside of the radical, if there is a GCF, or they're all divisible by the same number, we can simplify. 8, 6, and 14 are all divisible by 2. So we're going to simplify this down. 8 divided by 2 is 4, plus or minus. 6 divided by 2 gets us 3, and the I root 6 is along for the ride. All over 14 divided by 2 is 7. If this 14 would have been negative, we would have divided by -2. Remember, we don't leave negatives in the denominator. It's very mathematically ugly. If you are able to enter your answer with the plus or minus, you can use this as your final answer. If you need to separate your answers with a comma or enter them separately, we're going to break this up over the plus and minus. So my first answer will be k is equal to 4 plus 3i root 6 all over 7. And my second one will be k is equal to 4 minus 3i root 6 all over 7. So, pardon me. If you can do the plus or minus, you only have to enter one fraction. If you have to break it up, you're going to enter two separate answers. So either way is correct, but make sure you pay attention to the directions.